Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from Red State dated July 14th, and it's entitled MSNBC being MSNBC. Failing network pushes notion of lawful violence against ICE. And all I have to say is that if you're pushing violence against a government organization, it's probably not going to end very well for you, so don't do that. So the article says, in this episode of Media Bias on Steroids, it says, on Saturday's ridiculous episode of MSNBC's Velshi, contributor Joyce Vance joined host Ali Velshi in condemning ICE agents for wearing masks during immigration enforcement actions. I know, shocking. The people that want you to wear masks for a certain disease, 4 years after the fact, suddenly don't want people wearing masks. How about that? And it's the reason ICE agents are wearing masks is because they're getting doxxed, and there's what did Tom Homan say? Recently, it was like an 830% increase in violence against ICE agents. So, yeah, they should be masked, okay? Let's keep going here. It says, the thing is, as Velshi and Vance preposterously posited, illegal aliens might mistake ICE agents for kidnappers. No, really. So, yeah, in that case, illegals and others might be justified to commit lawful violence against the agents. The irrational line of reasoning goes. All these illegal aliens only think people are trying to kidnap them? Like, what the hell kind of justification is that? It says, oh, I almost forgot. According to Vance, the actions of ICE are based on zero evidence other than skin color, which is completely incorrect. And Ali Velshi is your typical far leftist. So that's why he said that stupid thing. So it says, Vance, says you can't simply racially profile or profile people based on their national origin and start pulling them off the streets. That's not what's happening, but I think she knows that. It says, incidentally, it must be easy being a leftist in the sense that you can just make up facts as you go with zero basis. Yep, you can concoct faux evidence solely to support whatever absurd narrative you're pushing at any given time. As Velshi kicked off the farcical festivities by priming Vance, a Canadian political science professor, there you go. This is, mind you, to riff on masked ICE agents deserving whatever violence comes their way. This is, emphasis is from the author of the article. It says, Joyce, let me ask you one thing. You're a prosecutor. I want to ask you, there are legitimate reasons why some enforcement agencies, some police agencies go undercover or, do things in shadows to achieve certain things. I would assume that's specific and it needs to comport with some laws. It says, Vance, of course, was on it in italics. It says, exactly. There are very serious legal restrictions around the use of, for instance, FBI agents as undercover operatives. Very strict rules regarding how it's done, what they can do, what they can't do. And by the way, remember, we're talking about ICE agents, not FBI agents. And I don't know if there's any difference between the two in terms of how they work, but I would imagine there probably is to some degree. But anyway, it says, but what I've never seen a federal agent working a case do is, it should be do, not DUE, is pull a mask up so nobody knows who they are and go out and terrorize the civilian population, which is obviously not what's happening here. So then I think it's important for us at this point to be very plain speaking when we say this, that this is not normal, it's not acceptable, and it's a danger side. No, this has been going on all the time, guys. So this is perfectly normal. It says, we are well past the point where we can just identify danger signs and say, oh, there might be problems down the road. Their problems are here, and they're in the right now. Okay, kind of a weird way to put that, but it says, how do I say this tactfully? What a complete crock of BS. It says, Vance clearly had zero idea what she was talking about, principally because she had zero idea what she was talking about, meaning I'd bet $1 that Miss Vance had zero knowledge of whatever conditions or requirements exist that make it legal, even necessary, for ICE agents and other law enforcement officers to wear masks to protect their identities and the identities of their families when conducting potentially dangerous operations, particularly, that is, against those who violently confront them in the streets or resist arrest. And this is the woman who is talking. It says, Vance further spewed, says, and as we see people being pulled off streets, the danger to law enforcement, quite frankly, is that when you're masked like that and people don't know who you are, someone might exercise their lawful right of self-defense to protect themselves, thinking they're being kidnapped. So the notion that this is for law enforcement protection is utterly ludicrous, and we need to do away with that. You do know that these people are identified. They are wearing identification of who exactly they're with. These are not just some random people that are wearing masks that are pulling people off the streets into vans. Okay, they are clearly labeled. A lot of them have badges on. They identify themselves, so they're not being kidnapped. So this is someone who doesn't, why do I know this? And you're a law professor. Oh, you're Canadian, so you don't really probably even know the law. So what Ali Velshi and his MSNBC producers probably did is let's find someone that's just going to talk about this narrative as opposed to what it actually is, regardless of what it is. And now people leftists can go, oh, this is a law professor. Who cares if she's Canadian? She knows. And it's like, well, clearly she doesn't know what she's talking about. So it says, no words. The politically predisposed bias doesn't warrant a serious response. It says the bottom line. I'll make this one short. The MSNBC argument in defense of violence committed by anti-ICE, pro-illegal aliens is a complete crock. Undercover law enforcement officers, whether they shield their identities by wearing a mask, changing their appearance, altering their voice, or whatever, have been a valid and sometimes necessary precaution for God knows how long. Besides, remember when left-wing journalists, Velshi and Vance, and other lapdog media personalities called out pro-Antifa, anti-Semitic protesters, rioters, and others for covering their faces with masks, Palestinian flags, and such? Me neither. Yeah, it only goes one way. When the people who are wearing masks support what MSNBC wants, they will not say a word. But if they're people that, you know, like as you can see here, as I was saying, they are identified, the agents, you know, but when the people that are wearing masks go against what the leftists want, then it's bad. Because people don't have any principles, okay? Like, what's the saying? That if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all, and that certainly applies here. Well, let me know what you think about this. Do you, I would hope, disagree with what this lady was saying about violence against federal agents? Because that should not happen. And just remember, like I said at the beginning, if you do that, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Do not do that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.